Yep, here we go. Welcome to episode 13 of Sport Oregon Voices. We are here at the Sport Oregon office to talk all about the upcoming 8 Seconds Juneteenth Rodeo coming to Portland Expo Center on Saturday, June 17th. The invitational rodeo will gather some of the top competitors from across the country with the emphasis on supporting Black Western athletes and educating people on the cultural heritage of Black cowboys and cowgirls. I'm Charles Sudduth, and we're here joined by noted photojournalist, storyteller, and 8 Seconds founder Ivan McClellan, along with Councilor Vince Jones-Dixon of the City of Gresham. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. And with that, have you two introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about, how y'all came up with this.
I'm Ivan McClellan. I'm a noted photojournalist, apparently. I'm also planning the rodeo here in Portland.
And I'm Vince Jones-Dixon, Gresham City Councilman, community member, also funeral director here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm planning the rodeo as well.
Heard you. So, Ivan, this is for you. You were attracted to cowboy culture as a young boy growing up in Kansas City, but you were blown away when you were introduced to Black cowboys and rodeos as an adult. What changed when you visited your first Black rodeo in Oklahoma in 2015?
Yeah, we would go to rodeos in Kansas. We would go to the American Royal there. There's a huge rodeo and a barbecue competition. And our choir would like sing the national anthem, and we would kind of sit down. And all I remember really was the smell. It was horrible, and everybody there was white except for us. So we would kind of come in and do our thing and then like roll out. So I didn't really think much about rodeo. It was just sort of how we grew up. And when I became an adult, somebody told me about Black cowboys and invited me to a rodeo in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. And I went and I just saw thousands of Black cowboys there, and it completely changed my definition of what a cowboy was and opened my eyes up to a new world that I just kind of got obsessed with. And I kept going back year after year, and it eventually became 8 Seconds.
Heard you. You've been going to Black rodeos, though, around the country for the better part of the last decade. What have been some of the highlights you would say along the way, from documenting the unique culture to elevating the stories of the rodeo athletes and ultimately developing lifelong friends?
Yeah, I would say the highlight are those friends. Just really developing relationships that are really deep with people. I kind of came in approaching it as an art project, and the more I did it, and the more I showed up to places, the more people were like, Ivan's here, 8 Seconds is here, and we just got excited about being in community with each other and being in that rodeo environment with each other. I eventually went from beyond the rodeo and started going to people's ranches and people's homes. A lot of times I would like not even take pictures. We would just sit and eat crawfish or go bowling or do whatever, just like chop it up in whatever car I was renting, and it became really relational, and I really got immersed in the community in a way that I never expected.
So dive a little deeper into the 8 Seconds passion project that you've been building over the last 8 years, not only from a professional standpoint, but from a personal perspective of self-discovery and appreciation of the elements of your culture.
8 Seconds is just a name that I came up with for my Instagram account. 8 seconds is how long you have to ride a bull or a bronco to get a qualifying score. And I needed a catchy name because I had all these photos, and my wife was like, do something with the photos. And so I started Instagram, put it out there, and just like overnight, we had thousands of followers. People were super excited about this culture and super excited about what we were talking about. After about a year of doing that, brands started to come along, Wrangler and Stetson, Boot Barn, Ariat, all of these heritage Western brands started coming to us and being like, hey, we need to diversify. We've done a really bad job at speaking to audiences that aren't just like white country people. And I helped a lot of those brands not just make one campaign for Black History Month, but commit to making that work and diversifying their work throughout the year and for the long term. And so you'll see 8 Seconds influence across the Western world, which we're incredibly proud of. That brands, have extended who they talk to and have extended who they make products for even. Also, we've moved into helping athletes obtain sponsorship. We've gotten 4 athletes sponsored so far, connecting them with brands, telling them what excellent performers they are, and then helping them get down the road with substantial financial backing from Western brands. So there's a lot in 8 Seconds that I'm incredibly proud of, and it just keeps growing. And I'm just glad to be a steward of the work and continuing to go where I'm needed.
Real life pioneer. Right? Hey, we'll skip over to Vince real quick though. Vince, how'd you first get connected to Ivan?
Through our better halves. So our wives worked together years ago. And I think when our wives got together was when you first started shooting. Was that like 7 or 8 years ago?
Okay. And you brought the idea of bringing the Black Rodeo to Portland as a celebration of Juneteenth to Ivan. How did you come up with this amazing event concept?
It was birthed out of community. So in East County and Gresham, for the last 3 years, we've hosted a Juneteenth event in Rockwood. And one of the community leaders, Jermaine Flintroy, shout out to Jermaine, he said, Vince, he's a dreamer. He said, Vince, we should get some he said, I just came back from Louisiana. We should have some black cowboys at the next Juneteenth rodeo, or at the next Juneteenth event here at Vance Park. It's like, that's random. I hit you up. I think I reached out to you because I remembered you were capturing photos, and you were like, it's my dream to put together a rodeo. I already started a plan for your home city in Kansas City, and then from there we've been breaking this vision to life from July up until now.
Man, real deal.
It's community, so it's truly birthed out of community.
Heard you. Sweet. Let's pop back to Ivan real quick. What were the initial concerns or challenges that came up when you first thought about turning this dream into a reality? And then when and how did the first big step of this journey come together for it to really come to fruition?
Yeah, I would say the biggest obstacle is that I have absolutely no live event experience.
Heard.
I had no clue what I was doing. I had no clue what the first step was. And so we talked about it for a few months, and one of our teammates, Jonathan Ross, was like, what are you going to do with the money that you collect? He's like, you're about to collect hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's going to be tax liability. There's going to be insurance. There's going to be a lot that you have to do. You have to file for a 501(c)(3). If you haven't done that yet, that's going to be complicated. And then he said the word fiscal sponsorship, where we get a third party to do all of that stuff for us. And that really became our jumping off point, was finding somebody to support the rodeo, handle the finances, and then we just jumped off from there. But before we got the money in place, I was like, I'm not gonna end up on the news. I'm not gonna get in trouble for mismanaging finances. We need that part to be really tight. Me and Vince were really lockstep about that. Once we got that piece in place, then we really started piling on all the rodeo elements, searching for sponsors, all of the stuff that you need to do to make a successful event.
Heard you. And as you just explained, I mean, it's no small task converting the Expo Center into a rodeo ground for the day. You've been managing all the aspects of the rodeo, as you just explained, from arranging the food to retail vendors to horse stalls, fencing, from dirt load in to installation of 2,500 seats of spectators that we're expecting. Share some of the stories from that journey.
Yeah, it's been complicated. I talk to Vince nearly every day, and just, it's a really good call because it helps me process everything and sort of stay organized with all of the different components and all the different aspects and all the sponsors that we got. It's a moment of celebration. It's a moment to vent. So I really appreciate that collaboration point. We've ramped up our production team. So we have Robbie Veltman as our executive producer on the project, and she's sort of helping us take all of these pieces and compile them into a cohesive show, which is really incredible. The Expo Center is not used to doing rodeos. They did their last rodeo there probably 50, 60 years ago. And since then, it's been, boats and sportsman shows and spas. And so coming in there and saying like, hey, we're bringing in tons and tons and tons of dirt and bleachers and commercial lighting that we're going to hang from your 100-plus-year-old ceiling and audio. They've been nervous, and so we've just been navigating with them, trying to figure out what's possible, being really concise in our planning about exactly what we're doing and what we're trying to execute.
So again, sticking with Ivan, looking ahead to Saturday, doors open at 3 p.m. to explore food, drinks, and retail vendors while the rodeo action starts at 7 p.m. Talk about the atmosphere you expect during those 4 hours preceding the rodeo and what vendors will be there.
We've got some local black-owned businesses, some retail vendors, some food vendors that are coming in. We're starting small this year. We're really not doing more than we can handle, but it's going to be a fun experience for people to come in and support the vendors that have signed up. And then some of our brand partners are going to be there. Tacovas, Western Wear, and Boots are going to be there. And they're going to set up shop so you can kind of look at their product and see what quality it is, hold it, and then order it right there in the facility. Beyond that, we're going to put on a heck of a show. There's going to be a lot of different components to that. We want to create a really fun, really safe environment, family-friendly environment for all of our guests. We want people to leave inspired. We want people to leave educated about this culture, not only in the South, but directly here in the Pacific Northwest. The legacy and heritage of Black cowboys that have been pioneers in Oregon is an important part of the show. So we're really looking at those key moments that are going to pop open young people's eyes and that they'll take home with them and talk about for the next year until we do it again.
Exactly, and do it better. Vince, real quick, you're expecting a large majority of attendees to be new to rodeo events. So talk about the opportunity to educate these people on the culture and the history of Black cowboys and cowgirls, particularly in the Northwest.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a huge opportunity. We kicked around the idea or this vision of this being a home, like a big old family reunion. With all the gentrification, the changes that have happened here in the Pacific Northwest, specifically in Portland, and the history there within that site, from the Vanport, from the floods to just how that space was used during the internment camps, and just really creating a space of belonging. I'm excited for the opportunity to share this culture and I believe we both are excited for this opportunity to share the culture, the cowboy culture, and then also share these great athletes. In addition to that, I've been talking to my son. He's been wearing his cowboy hat to school over the last three months because we've been watching cowboy movies and things, and he has his own swag and what have you, and I think I'm just elated. The responses that we've received both from community leaders and those that are a part of the culture in general, it's been amazing. So I'm looking forward to facilitating that, and looking forward to just the fruits from the seeds that have been planted now and the day of as well.
Correct, real deal impact.
Yes, yes.
Back to Ivan. Outside of the educational impact, this is also going to be, incredibly entertaining event that uses lights, music, elite Western athletes. You've got comedy shows set up, music by DJ OG1, Lucifer Blazers, cocktails, and more. Talk about the energy, the atmosphere, and the fresh rodeo platform that you're creating for Saturday.
Yeah, I'm an artist. I'm not a promoter. We're not making any money off of this. We're just doing it purely for the love of it. Vince is doing it for the love of community. I'm doing it for the love of community and for the love of the culture and for the artistry of it. So the way that I've been thinking about and building out this space is as like an interactive art project. It's like when you walk in, you're gonna see beautiful lighting. You're gonna see horses warming up. You know, what is that first moment when you come into the space? You're gonna smell barbecue. You're gonna hear the music thumping. You're gonna hear music that feels familiar to you, and you're gonna hear music that you don't typically hear at a rodeo. You're gonna hear R&B and blues and hip hop and music from the culture, and just that atmosphere has been incredibly important for me. What's that first moment entering the space, and then you know, I'm really looking forward to the grand entry. You know, it's a moment where all of the athletes that are competing, and you know, different riding clubs that are coming into town, and different horsemen that live in the Pacific Northwest are all going to come out on their horses in the arena and ride around with their club flags, or you know, with their competitive outfits on, and we're going to introduce them to this place for the first time ever. And they're going to see each other. The crowd is going to see them. The crowd is going to see each other. And I just think that moment where all of those cowboys rush into the arena is going to be one of those super impactful moments that people talk about forever. I hope that it really inspires and really moves people permanently.
Potential monumental moment.
Exactly.
And back to Vince. If all goes well this weekend, are there plans to make this an annual event on the Portland sports calendar?
But of course,
Heard
but
you.
of course,
Heard you.
here in Oregon, and then I hope we keep this too, go nationally as far as across America. So
So still on you, Vince. Talk about the meaning of hosting this event on Juneteenth. Ivan has talked about celebrating liberation and really driving forward the future of Portland. You are hosting an event here that paints, you know, the picture of what Portland could really be. And it not only gives these athletes a great platform, but it progresses the sport of rodeo in a new direction that Portland hasn't seen before. So talking about that a little bit.
yeah, I mean, the theme for this year for Black History Month is the resistance. And since George Floyd's murder, we've been talking a lot about here in Multnomah County, who are we becoming? Actually, the whole state has been thinking through who are we becoming. This is an example of we're acknowledging the experiences that Black athletes have had, Black and brown athletes have had within this sport, and we're creating this environment and or platform for their story to be shared, and then also we're setting a standard. You know, we're having, I think you shared, what's the typical winnings at a rodeo?
Black rodeo from $5,000 to $15,000. Most of the rodeos, sometimes 30. White rodeos, you know, you can make a lot more money than that. You can make hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars in prize money. We're doing $60,000 at our rodeo.
Yeah, so I mean, it's 3 times as much of what you would win at a typical quote unquote black rodeo. My hope. Can you restate the question? Because I think I'm. Can you,
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So it's like talk about the meaning of hosting this event on Juneteenth.
yeah. So the meaning one, we know what Juneteenth is, which is the emancipation, you know, of emancipation and liberation of the African American community in Galveston. We're going to touch on that throughout the rodeo. This is an example of that. I believe it symbolizes that, in, as far as Black athletes within the sport, and then when I think about community, we've talked a lot about just the liberation of our own minds within our community here in Oregon and our challenges. And like you said already, we want the event to inspire, and we want to inspire folks to tap into the gifts that God has given them and to share those gifts. And that's tied in, and that's what our ancestors have done post Juneteenth. So I totally butchered that.
No, you good. You solid, man. That's solid. On our final question here with Ivan, we are just a few days out from the rodeo, but how can those watching and listening get involved? Donations to scholarship fund, sponsorships? What's your thoughts?
We can always use more money. You know, there's just not enough, and there's next year. You know, we start planning for next year on June 18th, and so if you miss this one, you know, come on out, see what we put on, and then support us for next year for sure, and years to come, because we're going to lock this in as a mainstay of the day in Portland and just kind of continue to grow with our community and continue to grow with folks. Come to the event, make some noise, be patient, because we're working it out. We're figuring out exactly what we're doing. We're going to do our best job, but if the mood and the vibe is positive, then everybody's going to kind of elevate together. So coming out to the rodeo, put on your boots, put on your hat, show up and show out. We're going to have a best dress contest. So wear your best Western wear, and you might win a little prize.
Thanks, Ivan. Thanks, Vince. And thank you all for joining us today. We want to encourage all of you to get to Portland, get to the Expo Center on Saturday, June 17th, for the 8 Seconds Juneteenth Rodeo. This will be an inclusive, educational, entertaining event that features some of the top Western athletes competing in a fresh rodeo platform. To stay informed about all things 8 Seconds, follow Ivan on Instagram at 8secs, or check out our website at 8secs.com, spelled out EIGHTSECS. That's all for episode 13 of Sport Oregon Voices. We hope to see you guys in the next few days at the Portland Expo Center for the 8 Seconds Juneteenth Rodeo.